Aerodynamics has fundamentally transformed MotoGP in recent years. Winglets and spoilers provide more stability, improve braking performance, but make overtaking more difficult. As the technology keeps advancing and being further refined, the question arises, is it still thrilling motorsport or just technical overkill? And what do these developments mean for road traffic? That's exactly what we'll take a closer look at now.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
In the early years of MotoGP, aerodynamics held a fairly minor role overall. Motorcycles were narrow, lightweight, and primarily engineered to maximize agility and responsiveness. The primary focus consistently remained on achieving the perfect balance between engine power and chassis, while aerodynamics played only a minor role. However, that changed dramatically when Ducati began testing winglets on their motorcycles in the early 2010s. These small wings were specifically engineered to generate downforce, ensuring the front of the bike remained stable and significantly improving its handling during intense acceleration. At first, they were laughed at, but it quickly became evident that these aerodynamic elements provided substantial performance benefits. Yamaha, Honda, and KTM followed suit, developing their own concepts and optimizing the interplay of aerodynamics, speed, and rideability, chassis, and engine performance. Today, aerodynamic components are an integral part of every MotoGP machine. However, it's not just about winglets. Ducati, in particular, has established itself as a pioneer in this field. Since the introduction of aerodynamic components, they have been continuously setting new standards in airflow optimization. Another milestone in development were what's known as downwash ducts. These air ducts, for instance, are designed to specifically reduce turbulence behind the motorcycle, thereby minimizing air resistance. Such innovations clearly illustrate just how much aerodynamics in MotoGP have progressed and how strikingly the racing machines differ from street-legal models. Modern MotoGP motorcycles can achieve top speeds exceeding 350 km per hour. At these high speeds, aerodynamics plays an absolutely crucial role as it greatly impacts the bike's handling and ensures a stable and controlled riding experience. The main advantages of aerodynamics: the anti-wheelie effect, with the additional downforce keeping the front wheel stable on the asphalt, allowing for more aggressive acceleration. High-speed stability. Especially on fast straights, the aerodynamics ensure that the motorcycle remains steady and doesn't start to vibrate. Improved braking performance. A motorcycle with optimal aerodynamics can brake later and harder, as the added downforce provides greater stability. Increased grip during acceleration. Rear wings, for example, play a key role in improving the rear wheel's traction, minimizing power loss caused by tire spin. Newly developed air channels, called ducts, direct the airflow strategically to reduce drag and make the motorcycle more aerodynamically efficient. While Ducati previously knew that aerodynamics could be a decisive advantage, all teams now rely on sophisticated solutions. Not only Yamaha has also increasingly developed aerodynamic concepts in recent years and filed their own patents for innovative air management systems, which may soon be featured in street motorcycles as well, extending beyond just winglets. But how does the whole concept of aerodynamics work? The basic idea behind aerodynamics in motorcycle racing is to strategically direct the airflow to optimize the bike's handling. Unlike cars, which have a large contact area and can effectively utilize wide spoilers, motorcycles demand a specialized approach since they operate at significant lean angles during cornering, which completely changes the aerodynamics. The rider themselves also has a significant impact on aerodynamics, which has even led to patent applications for aerodynamic motorcycle suits. Winglets are one of the most noticeable aerodynamic aids in this regard. They are small wings that are typically attached to the front fairing or on the sides of the vehicle. Their main purpose is to generate downforce, pressing the motorcycle with additional pressure onto the track. This occurs as the winglets redirect the airflow to generate a downward force, much like an airplane's wings, but they are specifically engineered to push in the exact opposite direction. One of the critical attributes of the winglets is their ability to function with exceptional efficiency at higher speeds. The faster the motorcycle moves, the more air flows over the wings, which in turn causes drag to increase accordingly. This keeps the motorcycle more stable, especially when accelerating out of corners or on long straights. Without winglets, the front wheel would often lift uncontrollably due to the immense power of MotoGP bikes, which could cost valuable time. In addition to winglets, there are other aerodynamic concepts like double fairings and so-called downwash ducts. The specially designed air channels guide the air precisely around the bike, reducing turbulence and minimizing air vortices behind the motorcycle. However, aerodynamics is not just an advantage, it also brings its own challenges. Too much downforce can slow the motorcycle on long straightaways as the drag force significantly increases. Therefore, engineers must carefully determine the exact amount of aerodynamic support required, ensuring it doesn't excessively compromise the top speed. Long before MotoGP, aerodynamics became crucial in Formula 1. But even though one might think aerodynamics always works the same way, there are extreme differences between Formula 1 and MotoGP. Both in MotoGP and Formula 1, aerodynamics plays a crucial role, but the approach taken in each discipline differs significantly and distinctly in their methods. In Formula 1, aerodynamics is optimized to achieve the highest possible cornering speed. Winglets on motorcycles, however, have only a limited effect in corners because the bike is leaning and the wings are no longer positioned optimally within the airflow. Their shape is typically designed to ensure that, even in a leaned position, they still produce a subtle aerodynamic effect by efficiently directing the airflow around the bike, and thus provide some added stability. While Formula 1 emphasizes maximum downforce to achieve higher cornering speeds, MotoGP engineers must strike a careful and practical balance. Motorcycles don't have DRS systems, that is, no drag reduction system, an adjustable wing element to reduce air resistance on the straights, so the balance between downforce and top speed must be found. A problem is the so-called dirty air effect. In Formula 1, turbulence behind a vehicle makes following and overtaking more difficult. A similar problem has now started to occur in MotoGP as well. Particularly on tracks like Jerez, it was observed in 2022 that riders had difficulties overtaking the rider ahead of them. The air turbulence behind aerodynamically highly optimized motorcycles simply affects the stability of the following bike and also makes braking much more difficult. To counteract this trend, new rules will be introduced starting in 2027 to limit the influence of aerodynamics. Whether these rule changes will actually have a positive impact on racing remains to be seen, however. Aerodynamics certainly has its advantages, but where there is light, there is also shadow. Advantages? Faster lap times and enhanced stability enable drivers to push more aggressively, significantly boosting overall performance levels. Enhanced safety, fewer uncontrolled wheelies, and more stable braking significantly reduce the risk of accidents. Technological progress? Innovations from MotoGP often make their way into production motorcycles, offering benefits there as well. Improved fuel efficiency: by optimizing airflow, drag can be minimized and overall fuel consumption significantly reduced. However, there are also drawbacks. Overtaking becomes more challenging. The dirty air issue can make close battles more difficult and the races less exciting. In the past, before advanced aerodynamics, overtaking was far more frequent. High development costs, wind tunnel testing, CFD simulations, along with producing aerodynamic components, are very expensive. Sensitivity during crashes. Winglets and spoilers can easily break off, drastically altering the handling and making the bike nearly unrideable. Aesthetic changes. Some fans and riders consider modern MotoGP bikes with large wings to be less visually appealing. Those were the pros and cons in MotoGP, but how does it look when it comes to public road traffic? More and more bikes for the road are equipped with wings, and what do they actually bring to the table? While aerodynamic developments in MotoGP offer clear functional advantages, the question arises as to what benefits they provide for road-legal motorcycles. Winglets and aerodynamic fairing elements have now made their way onto production bikes, especially on supersport models like the Ducati Panigale V4R, for example, or the BMW M1000RR. But do these elements actually provide a measurable advantage in real-world riding conditions, or are they predominantly about enhancing appearance and marketing appeal? What advantages do aerodynamic elements offer on the road? Stability at high speeds. At around 200 km per hour, the aerodynamic downforce begins to become clearly effective. This keeps the front wheel more stable, which can be particularly advantageous during high-speed highway driving or on the racetrack. Otherwise, the same advantages apply as in MotoGP, but they only come into play at extremely high speeds, which are practically never reached in everyday public road traffic, except perhaps on highways, aside from specifically designed airflow for cooling purposes. Some manufacturers also use aerodynamic air channels to direct airflow specifically to hot engine components or brakes, for instance, to enhance cooling performance. Are there also disadvantages? Yes, unfortunately, yes. Hardly effective at low speeds, so in city traffic or at moderate country road speeds, winglets are practically useless, since aerodynamic downforce only becomes noticeable at extremely high velocities. This results in increased air resistance and fuel consumption. Even if the effect is minor, additional attachments create more air resistance and can slightly raise fuel consumption. Sensitivity to damage remains a major concern. Carbon winglets or specialized fairing parts are expensive to manufacture and can easily sustain damage in tip-overs or minor collisions, making repairs very costly. Optical polarization. While some motorcycle enthusiasts appreciate the aggressive look of modern bikes with winglets, others see them as an unnecessary design feature that doesn't align with the classic aesthetics of motorcycles. For the average street rider, the benefits remain fairly limited. In this case, it's more about the design, exclusivity, and marketing that truly take center stage. Nevertheless, it's likely that aerodynamic innovations from MotoGP will continue to transfer into production bikes, whether for cooling, improving ride stability, or increasing efficiency. So, what could be next? Aerodynamics in MotoGP has advanced rapidly in recent years, but this very progress is now fueling significant debate. While engineers are developing increasingly sophisticated winglets, spoilers, and air ducts, critics see the risk that racing is changing too drastically. Fewer overtaking maneuvers and a more parade-like procession, similar to Formula One, could be the outcome. To counteract this, new regulations will be introduced in 2027, aiming to significantly reduce the impact of aerodynamics. But even if aerodynamics in MotoGP is more strictly controlled, it doesn't mean that engineers will stop seeking out innovative and effective solutions. There are already some patents and ideas that show where the developments could be heading in the future. Hidden aerodynamic elements. If large winglets are banned, manufacturers might discover methods to manipulate airflow using more subtle integrated design features, such as air channels or specialized fairing designs that effectively generate downforce while staying completely invisible to the eye, needing protruding parts. Active aerodynamics. In Formula One, they use DRS, an active system designed to reduce drag. Even though movable aerodynamic elements are currently banned in MotoGP, future innovations might allow winglets or spoilers to dynamically adapt to specific riding conditions, whether for increased stability while braking or to significantly reduce drag on the straightaways. Integration into the cooling system. Some manufacturers, like Yamaha and Aprilia, are developing air duct systems that not only provide aerodynamic benefits, but also deliver cooling for the brakes or engine. Such dual functions could become even more important in the future. Even if the rules in MotoGP become stricter, it doesn't mean that the development of aerodynamics in motorcycle engineering will stop. In fact, new technologies will likely flow more into production motorcycles. Manufacturers like Ducati, BMW, and Yamaha are already securing patents for aero elements on road-legal motorcycles. These include, among others, adaptive winglets. These goodies could be approved for more street motorcycles in the future and adjust automatically based on speed or riding mode. For example, more downforce during sporty rides or reduced air drag during touring trips. MotoGP is at a turning point. While aerodynamic innovations lead to faster and safer motorcycles, the question arises whether it actually enhances the racing experience or makes it more predictable and static. The new rule changes starting in 2027 could bring more excitement, but manufacturers will still seek ways to optimize their bikes aerodynamically. What's your perspective on this? Should MotoGP continue to progress, or should it revert to the simpler, cleaner aesthetic of the past? Ultimately, the question remains unanswered. Are wings and similar features an essential part of modern motorcycle engineering, or are they just excessive tech that changes the original riding experience? Should MotoGP keep prioritizing aerodynamic advancements, or is it better to revert to more straightforward and cleaner design concepts? And how useful do you find aerodynamic elements on street motorcycles?